do that, and that should be congratulated.
Brendan Horan.
Mr Speaker, I rise on behalf of New Zealand First to speak on the Marine Legislation Bill. New Zealand First will support this bill to the first reading, through the first reading, but with reservations. The New Zealand First stance on firm regulation for the safety and protection of our shipping, harbour and environment is robust and well documented. How sad it is that if it wasn't for the deregulation of our shipping industry by the national government in the early 90s, a disaster such as Irina would never have occurred. But as I said, we will support to the first reading based on increasing the damage liabilities and enforcing alcohol limits. But there is a question mark about our processes, and we need only look at the petition by the people of Gisborne, the good people of Gisborne, and they wonder about our Transport Committee's effectiveness in fair, robust discussion and dissection of submissions. Because, you see, the people of Gisborne were ignored. 10,800 signatures on a petition, but the Transport Committee ignored them. So New Zealand First is very concerned about the nature and fair determination of that Transport Select Committee. And the question has to be asked, is this committee up to asking the hard questions of submitters and to go with what is fair and true rather than party majority-based outcomes? You know, I found it very interesting listening to Mr Fay Complete earlier. That is the chair of the Select Committee, David Bennett. You see, I was there in that Select Committee when the soft, wet towel questions were asked of Maritime New Zealand. And there was little more than government propaganda, and that's what we've had from this government regarding the Rena. It's been interesting listening to people talking about the Rena disaster as if all the oil's cleaned up. But it's not. There's still at least 10 tonne or more of oil in that Rena, and I've been talking to the experts about that. You know, let's consider some of the propaganda. Do you remember the week before the election when Mr Joyce came out and said all the oil has been cleaned up? Do you remember that? A week before the election. Look, I've got an iPad here with photographs. I can pull them up if you like. And I'll do that, eh? Because it's interesting. Listen up, you national backbenchers over there. Cast your eye on this. Hold on, it takes a little while to pull them up sometimes. It's just like the national government in that way, but the people of New Zealand are pulling you up. You see, they're waking up.
This is a great speech.
Here we go. So here we have a picture of oil on the beach. I've got here a picture of an Irish tourist at Christmas with oil all over her feet. I have in here a picture of my daughter, 6 years old in January, with oil in her hair and her ears off Papamoa Beach. I have in here pictures of locals who even had to make tools to collect tons of oil off the beach. You know, it's just amazing because one would never think that we would have such propaganda in New Zealand and that anybody would get away with it, that they could block the media from going out to that boat. You see, I probably know more about the Rena because at nights I went to where those foreigners who were cleaning up the Rena, the salvagers, where they were going for their dinner and for their drinks, all on the taxpayer. So I found out exactly what they knew about how much oil was taken off the Rena and the processes involved that this country was kept in the dark over. And even now when we ask the government, well, how much of the taxpayers' money has been spent on this clean-up, they'll come out over there with a figure like $38.9 million. but we know it's much more than that. You see, we in Tauranga, we know about the spillionaires that have been created. We know about the relatives of certain members who have these massive crane contracts. We know all about that. You know, when this government's asked about the true cost to the taxpayer of New Zealand and the people of Tauranga, why don't you include the lost jobs? The devastation on the businesses, the thousands that have left Tauranga because of the devastating effect that the RENA has had on tourism. And while we're at it, where is the Associate Transport? Oh, I shouldn't say that. Isn't it amazing how the Associate Transport Minister has managed to avoid this bill? Because we needed Simon Bridges to be standing up for the people of Tauranga through this. You know, the squeaky voiced one. And it's amazing his voice is so squeaky because it should be a whole lot smoother for the amount of oil that is spilled on the Tauranga beaches that he has done nothing about. It should be smooth like Mr. Joyce's. But I will say, no, what is shameful is the woeful, inadequate effort that this government has made and the woeful, inadequate service that this government has given to the people of Tauranga and the people of New Zealand over the most devastating oil spill that we've ever had in this country. But I will say that this bill does have some potential, because this bill does set out to give regional councils powers to appoint harbour masters and enforcement officers and establish navigation bylaws. It empowers regional harbour masters and enforcement officers with the authority to issue infringement notices for breaches of maritime rules. It also almost double damages liability for maritime claims for loss of life, injury, property and damage, etc. So there's a few things in here that are very good. However, I'm concerned when we look at Change the Maritime Transport Act so that the Director of Maritime New Zealand has the power to take action when port management poses a risk to shipping and or the environment. I'm concerned about that because, unlike the backbenchers of National over there, I live in Tauranga and I was there. I was there when we had 5 days of beautiful weather and the national government did nothing, sat on their haunches. And then on the sixth day, when the weather started to get bad and they realised that they better do something, they held a public meeting, and it was at Tauranga Boys High School. So it was in the hall, and there they were with the national appointee, this Director of Maritime New Zealand. And what did they organise in this hall that fits about 800 people? They organised a very small screen, a video screen, that nobody could see. They couldn't even organise a sound system that would work for all the people that were in there. So nobody really heard anything much from that day. And I remember asking the question of Simon Bridges, who was chairing that meeting, what are you going to do on Thursday when the winds turn west-northwest? And the answer was, oh, we're hoping for a change in the weather. You see, a person of the sea or that area should have known and would have known that when the winds turned west-northwest there, that oil was heading down to Makatu to devastate the endangered dotterel population. You know, there's a lot to be said about this bill. It's pretty big. In fact, here it is. Isn't it big? You know? And we might end up with some legislation in here to punish polluters of a maritime nature, but where in this bill are the safeguards of oil and pollution response? Sadly, this bill lacks the essential ingredient. It lacks the preventative cure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chris Ockenvold.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Normally